Hey guys, welcome back. Realms of Alurya is a multiplayer game that blends mobile mechanics with the immersive ARPG genre. The game is currently in early access on Epic Games and available for wishlist on Steam. They are currently running their Hunt and Mint event, which doubles up as a play to airdrop adventure. But is Realms of Alurya worth playing? Let's find out. Realms of Alurya is a unique game in the sense that there are two different but interconnected game loops. The first game loop is the ARPG one that takes you into the dungeons. Here, you'll be fighting mobs who are trying to secure as much loot as possible. There are different levels of the dungeon, with higher level dungeons being more difficult but also dropping better rewards. As you're killing mobs, you'll be filling up the boss meter at the top. Once it's filled, you can summon the boss, which will spawn where you are, allowing you to fight him. Each dungeon run lasts for 30 minutes, and entering a dungeon requires a dungeon charge. Every player starts the game with 4 dungeon charges, and 1 charge is consumed per dungeon run. Dungeon charges are refilled for 1 every 6 hours. If you want more dungeon charges, you can purchase them from the store. The second game loop is the farming and crafting one. This takes place outside of the dungeon on your private island. Every player is given a private island for free when they start the game. Land NFT holders will have access to additional plots to do their farming and have access to stations which free players do not. Here, you can plant vegetables and trees and raise animals to harvest for resources and materials. These materials can then be used for crafting and building. So remember when I said earlier that these game loops are interconnected? That's because you can also find basic materials in the dungeons for crafting. To get higher level materials though, you will need to level up your different crafting professions and skills. So although both these game loops are very different from one another, they do combine pretty well together. You can head into the dungeons for a more fast-paced, action-oriented experience, and when you're done, pop back to your private island to tend to your crops and do some crafting for a slower-paced experience. So is Realms of Alurya worth playing then? The controls took a while for me to figure out and get used to. Unlike a typical MMO, you don't move using the WASD keys. Instead, you right-click to move your character around. I felt that the user interface and controls could have been more intuitive for gamers, and this is something that the team can work on before full release of the game. For the game mechanics, I felt that they were pretty unique and does scratch the itch for both fast-paced and slower-paced gameplay. The dungeons offer a very different vibe and plays very much like most ARPGs. There are different mob mechanics to keep things interesting, and you need to have your eyes peeled for resources that are lying around. I found myself fully engaged when diving into the dungeons. For the farming and crafting gameplay, there's a nice variety of professions and materials to keep you occupied and wanting to progress further to unlock higher tier recipes. Now, one improvement I felt could be made is the resource requirements for crafting and buildings in the early game. They could be lowered to give more progression and hook players to wanting to come back to play more. I found myself waiting quite a bit during the early game for resources to mature and had to stop playing because there was nothing else to do. So all in all, the game is already sitting on a solid foundation. They have the core gameplay mechanics up and running, and I found myself wanting to come back to keep playing more. That to me is a positive sign that they have something on their hands. As for whether it is worth playing in its current state, it is only if you are a fan of ARPGs or the farming genre. If you're looking towards a more complete and balanced game, I think it would be better to wait for the full release so you can have a fuller experience when you do jump in. And that's it for my take on whether Realms of Alurya is worth playing. Do let me know in the comments what do you think of the game and whether you find that it is worth jumping in. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.